I have to ask you, what was it like waking up this morning to discover the president had Truth Socialed about you, saying that you're one of the reasons why this war hasn't come to an end? I'm going to quote, he said, "This war can be ended now, but stupid people like Chris Murphy, obviously the senator from Connecticut, John Bolton and others make it much harder to do so." What is it like waking up to a Truth Social like that?
Well, it's pretty common in my case. I'm glad the president's still thinking about me. It shows he's listening anyway. But, you know, if he can't stand the heat, he should get out of the kitchen.
Obviously, you were there at the Helsinki summit. Can you take us through what it's like trying to brief Donald Trump for a situation as complicated like this one?
Well, typically he has not read the briefing materials that are prepared by the National Security Council staff with inputs from all of the affected departments and agencies. It's pretty standard practice across almost all presidencies in the modern time. And they were laboriously put together, and I'm quite confident he read little or none of them in most cases. We tried to arrange briefings with greater or lesser success before we departed from Washington, but sometimes that was quite difficult. And probably the best example of how scattershot it was when we were flying from Scotland to Finland for the 2018 Helsinki summit. I briefed him on strategic arms issues and negotiations with Russia while we were flying on Air Force One. He was in his cabin watching a FIFA soccer match. So I had to compete for attention with that.
And is he, yeah, John, okay, I got it. Or is he does he blank you? How does he show any level of engagement on something like this?
Well, it varies. Sometimes he does ask questions. There were times in his intelligence briefings that he would ask questions, but mostly he likes to talk. There were some of the intelligence briefings where he talked more than the intelligence briefer. And I was reminded, Lyndon Johnson once said, "I found that when I'm talking, I don't learn very much," but that was not an inhibition for Trump.
And does he not listen because he thinks he knows everything, or does he like to go into a situation and assess it in the room?
Well, it depends on the subject. In some cases, he thinks he does know a lot. He hears from all kinds of random people, often hears things he doesn't hear from his senior advisors, and thinks he has better information sources than they have. But it's also the case that he believes in his own ability in a very short period of time to size people up. And he said frequently that he thinks that international relations are really the personal relations between heads of state. So if he's a personal friend with Vladimir Putin or Xi Jinping, then in his view, U.S. relations with the counterpart state are good. And so that means that if he has a warm feeling about the person he's about to meet with, he's not really worried about specifics or further information, because he figures he'll work it out with his counterpart, and if there are details that remain to be completed, others will do that work for them.
If you're Vladimir Putin and you're arriving on Friday, and you have, as we know he has, years of being skilled at the KGB, how do you approach Trump? How do you get what you want from Trump?
Well, first, Putin is always very well prepared. I first met him about 6 or 7 weeks after 9/11. I accompanied then Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld to Moscow. I was the State Department guy on that trip, and Putin had been president really only about a year and a half at that point, but he was very familiar with everything that we discussed, and in every meeting I've had with him since then, the same has been true. So he's automatically in better shape than Trump is to talk about what can be very complicated issues. And he's also now had many encounters, I think it's 6 or 7, in person before the Alaska summit, and multiple phone calls, 25, 30 over the years. So the KGB training is focused on helping one of their agents assess other people, judge what's on their mind, figure out ways to get to them, to achieve the manipulation that's the desired outcome. That doesn't mean in any sense I'm saying Trump was a Russian agent. In fact, sometimes the best tools for the Russians and other espionage organizations is to get people to do what they want unwittingly, which is what I think is going on here. But having had all this experience and a lot of practice with Trump, Putin can size up pretty quickly what the moments of opportunity are, and you could see as Putin approached on the red carpet to where Trump was waiting to greet him, Trump started applauding. You could see him smile. Putin started right in. There was a lip reader who gave her interpretation of what they were saying walking on the red carpet toward the stand where they took pictures. I don't know if it's accurate or not, but Putin engaged him very quickly, and then Trump gave him the perfect opening by inviting him to ride in the Beast, the presidential limousine, which gave him a couple minutes totally one-on-one. And after that, it's we don't really know. We have little bits and pieces of pictures of what happened in the conversation, but watching the press conference afterward, I came away with a pretty firm impression that Putin felt he had had a very successful meeting, and Trump came away feeling maybe it had not been so successful. So nothing's guaranteed. The round of meetings with Zelensky and the Europeans in the U.S. today will have a big impact. But if I were Putin, I would have come away from Alaska feeling very positive.
Does Donald Trump have a sense of the fact he's being manipulated, do you think? Or does he just think his personality sort of conquers everything?
Well, I've never heard him express any concern that he was being manipulated, not by Vladimir Putin, not by Xi Jinping, not by Kim Jong-un, not by Recep Erdogan of Turkey, not by almost anybody. There are two kinds of people in Trump's world, winners and losers. He's a winner. That's all you need to know.
Ugh, it's so fascinating. And does he get nervous or stressed before these kind of meetings?
Yes, I think he does, and I think he was demonstrating some of those nerves in the morning and during the flight to Anchorage, where he was tweeting this, that, and the other thing. He was making comments to the press. I think that's the sign of somebody who's got concern about how things are going to come out. Now, I am sure, I wasn't in the room, obviously, but I'm sure that when he came face to face with Putin, that he performed. In other words, he didn't show nerves through the meeting, but I think he was clearly on edge before the meeting.
How important are optics to him? Do the optics matter more than any?
I think optics are probably more important to Trump than almost any other contemporary president. Obviously, all politicians worry about optics. There's no question about that. But Trump thinks of himself as a TV performer, and he is a TV performer. In a sense, if his whole day were on television, he'd probably enjoy that. So he's very aware of what impressions are. That's why you saw the F-35s parked on the tarmac in Anchorage. That's why you saw the B-2 overflight and a number of other aspects of it. So it's I think his assessment after the meeting was pretty well reflected in his appearance, where he could have said it was a great meeting, everything went fine, we're well on the road to peace, I'm very confident, so on and so forth. That was not the 3-minute performance you saw in Anchorage. Only after he had recovered, in his interview with, I think, Sean Hannity, did he say on a scale of 1 to 10 it was a 10. So he had gotten his presence of mind back, and again, since there are only winners and losers, and we know he's a winner, it was a 10. And that's what you've heard since then. But I think the first reaction, before he had time to think through what the performance should look like, was the real indicator of how he felt, and he didn't feel good about it.
I want to come back to that in a second, in his ability to sort of take defeat and spin it as victory. But when you're in the room with him and the cameras aren't on, what is he like? Is there a big difference?
Well, not really. I mean, it depends, again, on the circumstances. But Trump likes to talk, as he said to me any number of times. I'm a talker. so his natural default is to be talking, and I think sometimes foreign leaders have trouble getting a word in edgewise. But I don't really think his behavior is that different. People have said, in the second term he's in public behaving more offensively, more profanity, and so on. And that may be, but it's not that he's changed between his first term and his second term. It's just that in public, going back even to the campaign, in public, he's just more like he was in private before. He's lost not all of his inhibitions, but he's lost a lot of them. I think that's fair to say.